Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Stories. For today, we got like a really special guest with a goal in here with us. Now, we have decided actually to talk about something that's maybe a lot of you have ever experimented. I definitely have experimented that. I remember that before starting that adventure, starting my company, um, I had that idea that I wanted to help more entrepreneurs, but it took me a long time, and I can really remember that voice telling me that, "Who are you, Tevin, to think that you can do that?" You know. So that's exactly what we call the imposter syndrome, and this is what you're going to talk today about with Guling. Guling, thank you so much to have accepted our invitation and with us to discuss about something I think that a lot of people are dealing with. So thank you very much.
Thank
Golin,
you.
can I ask you actually to introduce yourself because obviously you are the founder of that culture thing. I will actually put the website here for people to go and check.
Okay.
Um, but can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for having me, Tevin and Nikita. My name is Gurleen, and I'm the founder of That Culture Thing, and I'm an organizational psychologist. And we actually help organizations be more efficient, effective, and financially profitable using human capital. So basically, we empower leaders, managers, and individual contributors towards building irresistible organizational cultures by focusing on variables that lie beneath the surface level. Basically, I use psychology interventions to solve business problems. And about me, yeah, so I have about 10 years of work experience in human capital consulting space, and I have worked with a couple of consulting firms and a few companies in the HR department. And only recently, I started my own venture, which is called That Culture Thing. And so far, it's going well. So I think that's me in brief. Anything else you want me to add? I'll go for it.
Actually, I'll add something
Yeah.
because that's how I met Gurlin. Of course, I had known Gurlin for a long time through her LinkedIn posts, and that's why I could trust her to go to her. So Gurlin, a couple of weeks ago, or well, she started a few months ago, I think. She was running these workshops, or I would more put it as therapy sessions for small groups of people to overcome or at least manage or deal with their imposter syndrome. And I think I would be honest here, and there's no shame in accepting. I kind of felt that I had that little voice in my head too, saying that, okay, really, why you? I kind of sometimes felt I don't belong here, or I'm not good enough. Look at other people; they're so good. Why are you doing this? Just like Kevin was saying. And when I was invited to do some things as well, I would not want to accept that invitation because I thought I was not good enough, and it was maybe a fluke of luck, or by chance, or maybe somebody wanted some other person. They by mistake contacted me. All those thoughts went into my head, and I would not be able to perform at my best or do what I really wanted to do because all those thoughts were stopping me from achieving what I wanted to achieve. And I worked with Gurlin, and I was able to, I would definitely say, well, that's why I'm here today, because I was able to overcome that and work with Kevin on doing this podcast as well, starting my own business, things like that. So I'm sure Gurlin will be able to help a lot of other people as well. And that was, I think, a big chunk of thing that Gurlin missed out. She's definitely the go-to person if you're having issues, especially as an entrepreneur or as a professional. So yeah, definitely that. I think what we would love to do here today, Gurlin, because I know I was with you in session for 6 hours. We haven't got six
Yeah.
hours. So if we can define what is imposter syndrome
Yeah.
and well diagnose or rather recognize it or identify if you have it or someone you work with has it, maybe your business partner, maybe your life partner.
Yeah.
And it can get into your way of becoming successful or happy in general.
Yeah.
So defining, diagnosing, and then how do you manage it? So if
Yeah,
we go past
definitely.
that, yes, please.
Definitely. So I personally, I struggle with imposter feelings, imposter syndrome. Um, and when you asked me whether I would want to be on your show, my first instinct was no, I can't. But then later I kind of tamed my bully in the head, which was telling me that Gulleen, you're not enough, you're not good enough, you're not really ready to go on a live yet, you should not go. So I started telling myself that what are the reasons I should go? Maybe Nikita must have seen something in me. Maybe there must be some reason why she's inviting me, and I'm sure there are a lot of people like me who would probably learn from my experiences. So more about that later, but yeah, imposter syndrome, in very simple terms, is like a crippling nagging self-doubt at the back of your mind that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, or you're not intelligent enough despite the contrary evidence. And it's actually an internal belief, like inside, that you're not as competent as others perceive you to be. And usually people feel that, okay, maybe is it related to intelligence or achievement? It has got nothing to do with intelligence or achievement. It has links to perfectionism and in the social context. The term was actually used by two psychologists, Dr. Susanna Imes and Dr. Pauline Clance, in the 1970s. And that's when they originally thought that, a lot of high achieving women suffer from that. But latest research shows that men and other people from all the industries also go through it. And you talked about signs and symptoms of imposter syndrome. So there are a couple of signs, like incessant self doubt, um, and inability to realistically assess your competence and skills because you feel that, okay, somebody else or something external is responsible for your success and not you. Then berating your performance, feeling like, okay, you haven't done enough, even if you have done 99%, that is not enough because you want 110%. You need it to be so perfect. And then there is a fear that you won't live up to people's expectations. What if I fail? What if other people call me a loser? Or what if I don't meet their expectations? Then overachieving, because you have the self doubt, because you're already anxious. So, in order to cover that, you tend to overachieve, you tend to over prepare. So, there are different patterns also. Then, the last one would be setting very, very challenging goals and very lofty goals for yourself, and then feeling disappointed when you fall short, when you're not able to, achieve those. So these are some of the common signs of imposter syndrome.
That's quite a interesting, because a few of the things that you mentioned um, are really external, you know. So is would you say that imposter syndrome come from the fact from the the idea that we are that people expect us more than what we are were able to give?
Not entirely. It's actually our expectation that other
Our
people are
expectation.
expecting perfection from us.
Oh, okay, 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 okay.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, for many people, these persistent thoughts are like a dirty little secret because, research has summarized in the International Journal of Behavioral Science in the year 2012, I think, that 70% of people have felt like an imposter at some point in their lives. And it has become even more common because of social media and pandemic, because now we are stuck in our houses, we are not socializing with other people, so we are not getting that external validation which we were used to when we used to go to college or school or offices. So that is another reason why imposter syndrome has become more common now more than ever.
Okay, so imposter syndrome is on the rise. That's interesting.
Yeah,
That's really interesting.
yeah.
Um, Gulin, I have a question for you. So, I think the let me just quickly summarize the symptoms as such. How you can identify it is, as you said, incessant self doubt, inability to realistically assess your own abilities, attributing success to luck, or berating your own performance and success as well, overachieving, overperforming, setting lofty goals, and then feeling disappointed when you don't achieve it. Now, all these things, I will be honest with you, I have felt at some point or the other, but I don't want to play games here. However, I sometimes feel that I have not felt these things because of the way I think, but because of other people. So if I am with someone who clearly has imposter syndrome because they kind of fall in they meet with all these criteria, or they identify with all of these things. They're high achievers, they overperform, they do all of these things. And then when I am with these people, I kind of feel that, oh, I need to do that too.
Right.
So is that possible that we kind of because it's not a it's a mental thing. It's not like coronavirus. It's not contagious, you see.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to ask is it possible that it can be you pick it up of other people, you feed on it, or not at all?
It could be. I think comparison. I think culture has got a huge role to play here, because now we are stuck in like a comparison culture. So we see our friends performing well, we see somebody in the office performing better than us. So we feel that deficient in us, that okay, we are not good enough, or we are not there yet. So maybe, and if you see other symptoms in you, then maybe yes. But if it is um, only when you see others achieving and then you feel like achieving, it may be that you are a competitive person, and it may not necessarily be imposter syndrome.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's great because I as I told you, the reason I really wanted to ask this question is when I discussed this with Tevin and we kind of talked about this, a lot of people asked us this question. That's why we wanted you so
Yeah.
badly to come on this show. Yeah, but it was more to do with when you are with a group of people, say other entrepreneurs at a conference or maybe even an award ceremony, and people who have achieved a lot then
Yeah.
berate their own performance and say that no, 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 this was nothing, I need to do more. Then that's how sometimes I have heard from people, and I have felt that myself, that I went into that meeting feeling really confident that I have done a good job here, and seeing 10 other people saying who've achieved a lot more than me, but saying, oh
Yeah.
my God, I'm such a loser, that made me reassess my stance. I felt, oh my God, I went in there thinking I've done a lot. Probably
Yeah.
I haven't. Probably I'm a loser too. If they call themselves a loser, I must be a loser too. And that's how it began. It wasn't mainly to do with competitiveness or comparison, but yeah. So yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Kevin, do you want to add anything, or shall we ask
No,
her?
I find it quite interesting to think on one side about the imposter syndrome, and on the other side about competitiveness. Um, but people who are competitive, can they still feel the imposter syndrome?
Yes, they can. Definitely, they can. Yes.
Okay.
And also, I'll tell you four broad symptoms. So, one is anxiety. So, maybe rumination, only thinking about that, okay, I'm not good enough. What do I do so that people like me? What do I do so that I get external validation? Because, especially in imposter syndrome, your success relies on external validation. So a lot of people say that okay, it has got to do with self-esteem, maybe lower self-esteem, but research has indicated that it's not about self-esteem, uh, because it's more about how stable is your self-esteem. So I'll give you an example. A lot of times we say that bullies have very low self-esteem, but if you talk to them, they think of them as very high. They have like very high self-esteem. They think they are the best. So the problem is instability. Their self-esteem is not stable. So similarly with people who struggle with imposter syndrome, their self-esteem is not stable. So when they get positive validation from the outside, they feel that they are good enough and they know stuff. And the moment they get, say, a criticism or not a good feedback, they feel that okay, they are less, they are small compared to other people. So it has got to do with instability of self-esteem. So it's not stable. Self-esteem is not stable. So that is anxiety. Second is perfectionism. So you want to get everything right in the perfect order. Third is self doubt, and the fourth is fear of failure. And this is the fear why, and because of fear of failure, you try to cover it up by, different um, bad strategies and good strategies. Bad would be something like procrastination. A lot of people will just not follow their dreams because they feel that okay, they will not be able to achieve it. So they kind of sabotage their own potential. And then sometimes you over prepare, and when you over prepare, you actually do more harm to you. You harm your body. You are more susceptible to burnout, to stress, anxiety, depression, and all those other mood related disorders.
Okay. You mentioned something that I found quite interesting. For example, the self-esteem. You
Yeah,
mentioned that people can have like self-esteem, but it's unstable. Would that be a real self-esteem if you still have an instability? Because if your self-esteem in a way depends on external validation, is
yeah,
it not just a kind of a self-esteem for the show? What is not really proper self-esteem?
yeah, yeah. So self-esteem, as a concept, um, if you look at Buddhist philosophy, or if you really get deeper into the subject, self-esteem is nothing. You know, especially because we tend to feel that okay, if we get positively validated, we feel good about ourselves, right? So I think stable self-esteem would be when even when you get a critical feedback, you're okay with that. You're
Okay.
not ruminating about it over and over again,
Hmm.
and you take it as a maybe a lesson, or a lesson learned, and then you move on. So that I would call a healthy stable self-esteem, and you're not really internalizing the negative message.
Yeah.
But coming to think of it, if you think deeper, external validation can be negative or positive. It has got nothing to do with your self esteem. Like, it does not define who you are. So, identity, a lot of times we use self esteem, or how we are, how others perceive us as to be, similar to identity. So, that is not really identity. So validation is not identity. Identity is much deeper. And I would say, what is identity, or who are you? He or she is the person who is able to identify that okay, this is what I'm feeling at this moment, and I need not to internalize it, especially negative or critical feedback. I don't know if
Okay.
I make sense with that.
Yeah,
Um,
no, no, that's for me that's quite interesting because I think that my definition of a self-esteem is maybe it's too black or white because for me someone that needs external validation to feel good, uh, that would not be someone I would define as a confident, you know. So I didn't really have that kind of concept of unstable self-esteem.
yeah,
I think that's my way of thinking about self-esteem is or you have it or you don't have it. But obviously that can depend on the situation. You know, there are circumstances where someone can be really self-confident, but that would
yeah,
not stop that person to be to have some self-doubt when it comes to like something else, you know. But
yeah,
yeah, that's quite interesting for me to think about instability in the self-esteem.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like a wave. You
Yeah,
can't be number one all the times. You will fall, but that doesn't mean that you don't deserve it. You don't deserve success. So it's like a way when you just have to ride it.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I could definitely tell you some areas of my life where I'm feeling like, oh, I'm close to the top, and I'm like some other areas I'm like, oh my days, I'm so yeah, the imposter syndrome. I would say that for me at least, even if I think that's by challenging myself in areas I feel not very confident, that helped me to deal with the imposter syndrome. But that doesn't stop me from feeling imposter syndrome in others area of my life. But I guess that we are going to talk about how to deal with imposter syndrome a little further in a conversation.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah, Gurlin, it's interesting what you were talking about. I think I'm going a little bit on a tangent here, but because I work with families, I work with children a lot, and when I work with families, the advice that I try and give parents, especially parents of young children, is this concept of external validation, because the way we offer praise, and this can be applicable to anyone, not just parents of young children, but even now. If you're an entrepreneur and if you're dealing with a member of your team or your entire team for that matter, and especially the praise aspect, the way we praise people can affect the way they feel, right? Now, especially if you take someone, a child for instance, or a colleague. If I praise you by saying, Gulin, great job, I'm so proud of you, then I'm basically saying that, great, I'm proud of you for whatever you've done. Next time when I don't say that, it could be because I'm in a rush and I didn't have time to look at your project, or it could be because it's really not that good, or it's because I expect more from you. But
Yeah,
now, say you've emailed me your project, I don't give you that feedback that, Gurlin, I'm proud of you. It's going to make you feel that, okay, well, I've not done a good job, right? So here, the way you feel about, or the way you assess yourself or your performance is going to be based on the way I praise you as your manager or as your colleague,
yeah,
as whatever, or as a parent. Whereas if I give you feedback which is entirely about you, so if I asked you, Goodwin, wow, looks like you spent a lot of time on this project. How do you feel? Then it is all about you. If I
yes,
say, if Goodlin says that, oh, yes, I did put in a lot of effort and I feel good about this. What do you think? And I say, yeah, it looks great to me as well. Then it is about validating Goodlin's feelings, because Goodlin's feelings are important to me and they are important to her. But if I make it all about me, then that is how that external validation works, right? So I think um, it's great that you touched upon that self-esteem part, because if we are working in a team, then, and especially if you're the leader of that team, I I work with 40 team members and I try to give them feedback which is about them. So it's about, how do you feel? You've accomplished this project, you've accomplished this task. How does that make you feel? So
yeah,
if that makes them feel proud of themselves, they would want to do more of it.
yeah,
Whereas if I say, yeah, I give them that validation, then they would want to do that next time, but for me, to impress me, not because it makes them feel good. And then that keeps going. And I think that's how we probably end up with imposter syndrome. I don't even know, but I'm guessing that. So
yeah,
that's great
absolutely.
that you mentioned about the self-esteem, because it kind of made me think about it.
Yeah, yeah. And I really like the point that you made about children, because when we give children feedback, a lot of times what parents do is they give conditional love. They say things like, okay,
Yeah.
if you score so and so marks, or if you score so and so rank in the class, then you are worthy of my love. And
Mhm.
that is where, these kind of feelings kind of start. When
Exactly.
it is conditional, when you have to be a certain way in order to seek that love, it can be any form of validation from your parents or teachers or whatever.
Yeah.
That's when you feel that, okay, you have to do something in order to get love, in something to get that validation. So then
Yeah.
it manifests in your behavior when you grow up. and
Yeah.
in adulthood it shows in different ways.
Yeah.
So I think that is also one of the, I think, things that parents do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Definitely. And I have seen so many people who have been high achievers as children,
Yeah,
and they, as you just said, it's that overachieving and overperforming all the time. Because as a kid, you got that validation. Wow, well done! I'm so proud of you.
yeah,
And you then associate, okay, when I do this, mommy is happy, or when I do this, teacher is happy, and I
yeah,
need to do more of this. And then there's no end to it because you'll constantly want to do more and
yeah,
more and more. So,
absolutely.
so yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, shall we talk about because shall we talk about how do we manage this feeling then?
Okay, one is, yeah, you can just manage it. You can't get rid of it, because I think imposter syndrome also has a lot of strengths. I think hard work is one of them, because when you have this self doubt that you don't know enough,
Yeah.
what do? You research, you talk to other people, you try to find out. So I think the idea or the intention should not be to get rid of it totally, but use it strategically. And a lot of times we see that our greatest strengths are also our greatest weaknesses,
Mhm.
right? So it's very important to draw that line, to draw that balance, I think would be really important. So I think I can probably give you a little bit of context on what are the super strengths of imposter syndrome first,
Mhm.
and then maybe I can share a few tips on how to deal with it. So one is I think stronger decision making abilities. And some research also says that if you have imposter thoughts, you are able to make smarter decisions, because again, because you're willing to question yourself, and you are willing to do additional research to gather more data before you make a decision. And the self doubt helps you slow down your decision making process, and you will be more likely to test your gut rather than take a rash decision based on a hunch. So that is one, I think, strength of imposter syndrome. Like I said, there has to be a balance, like a perfect balance. And if it is in excess, then it can actually paralyze your decision making ability. Then you are not able to take a decision at all, and you get into that procrastination loop.
Yeah.
Second would be, I think, ambitious work ethic, and this is the reason why a lot of high achievers struggle from imposter syndrome. People like Maya Angelou, Natalie Portman, and stars like Robert Pattinson, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, they all struggle with imposter syndrome, and they have shared it in a lot of interviews that okay, they feel they have imposter feelings. But having said that, like I said, a lot of high achievers suffer from that, because again, they feel that they don't know enough, so they work extra hard, and which is why it actually is like they want to grow even more, and they want to learn more, research more. So if you experience imposter thoughts, you are more likely to work harder than those who do not, to prove your worth, which is a quality. But if it is in excess, it can lead to burnout. Then I would say confident humility, because, like I said, there's a lot of self doubt, but at the same time, you are researching so much that you have actually mastered your subject. So, a lot of people who struggle with imposter syndrome are really good at their subject. So, they are really confident but also humble at the same time. So, they don't have that air around them, or that sense of superiority, for the lack of a better word. And the last would be, I think, empathy and compassion, because again, there is the hidden kind of the hidden foundation is kind of self doubt and anxiety, which makes you a more empathetic person. So when you experience self doubt, you see how others struggle with similar thoughts. And a research suggests that imposter thoughts leads to increased capacity for interpersonal interaction, active listening, and empathy. So I think these are some of the super skills that people who struggle with imposter syndrome have.
Can you repeat those four super skills, please?
Yeah. So one is stronger decision making abilities. The second would be ambitious work ethic. Third would be confident humility. And the fourth one would be empathy and compassion.
I'm gonna try. I'm trying to tap at the same time as you're talking, so I can put that in the chat. So you mentioned about a stronger decision making ability.
Yeah.
The second one was
Ambitious work ethic.
ambitious work ethic. Yeah.
Yeah.
The third one,
Would be a confident humility.
confident in humility. Okay. And the last one,
Last,
empathy and
empathy
compassion.
and compassion. Yes. That's
Yeah.
correct.
So you can see that I put imposter syndrome is not always bad. It is not about getting rid of it. It's a bit of oh shit. Sorry about that. It's about getting rid. It's about managing it. So I want to be honest. I didn't want to take the credit. I was supposed to put it as a kind of a general comment, and it came across like if it was coming from me. But those are obviously the words of goal in. Okay, so I wanted to give you credits for this one, but I really like that approach that you have, where it's not about getting rid of things, but really about managing that.
Yeah.
We have some time conversation with emotion, the field of Nikita, and one of the elements that we come across is really the idea. And Nikita, let me know if I express it properly. But it's not about like getting rid of emotions, but really about managing emotions.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to get rid of them, and you don't want to bottle them up either. And I think I would agree. But I mean, I've been in the session with Gurun for 6 hours, so I do know I would agree now that yeah, you can't, you definitely can't, and you don't want to get rid of it. But it's about getting that balance right. So as Gurlin gave that example of decision making, so you don't want to be in the paralysis mode where you just thinking, oh my god, what do I do now? But you don't want to be either making rash decisions. So it's getting that balance right. So knowing your strengths, I think here, and knowing your weaknesses is just like in emotional intelligence. That's the key. So as Goodlin is explaining about imposter syndrome, I can totally relate to that. And I think yes, it is an emotion after all. It is a thought process that goes in you. So as yeah, she put it that it's about managing it. It's not getting rid of it, and that's the key. Because if you can't get rid of it, you feel like, oh my god, I'm not able to do one thing right,
Yeah.
and that's not the aim. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's thank you. Glenn. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if I
Oh,
were to give you an example, yeah. Yes. If you have any questions.
no. I was saying cool.
Okay.
So I just put there in writing the benefits of the imposter syndrome, and I like that to know that actually whoever feels like an imposter can obviously also benefit from that. Because getting like a bigger sense of focus. So thank you for balancing a little the kind of concept that you got about imposter
Yeah.
syndrome.
Yeah, thank you. And one more thing which I wanted to point out was a lot of times people who struggle with imposterism uh, give too much importance to themselves, to their egos, because it's about them. So whenever I think whenever you feel superior or inferior, you're operating from ego. Again, that the concept of self-esteem. If I were to relook at that, so I think if I were to share my personal experience, I had ADD as a child. I still do. So when I'm talking, when I'm discussing about a subject in my mind, I have like a lot of thoughts going on. So there are like multiple flow charts going on in my mind. So when I'm speaking, sometimes I'm not able to organize my thoughts the way I would like it to be. But when I'm writing, I can do that. So
Okay.
it happens with me even today. uh, so like a lot of mashup of words kind of go on in my head, uh, which actually, and I think 1 year ago, till 1 year ago, I used to think that I'm not a good facilitator. What will I do? People will not listen to me. How will I tell leaders and managers to listen to me? I can't even form like, simple sentences. What will I do? So then I realized that maybe I'm giving myself a little too much importance. Then I actually changed the narrative and I told myself that it is not about me. It's about my participants, it's about my leaders, it's about my managers, it's about the people who are entering into my workshops. So I changed my model. So instead of me talking, instead of me giving a monologue, I now create courses in a way that people are interacting with each other and I'm just facilitating. So actually now I have changed the narrative. So instead of me that okay, I am this great facilitator, I am this great trainer, I am just a facilitator who is getting things done and letting participants talk to them, and it's more about them and not about me. So I think if you give yourself a little less importance, then I think you are sorted. So that is one strategy that I personally use.
Wow, that's a great transition because we're going to talk also about those ways to manage to manage the imposter syndrome, and you already gave one way to manage it, and it's really to give ourselves less importance. How we're going to do that, Nikita?
I think that is great tip. Giving yourself a little less importance and not always not thinking just about you. And Kevin, I think we've had this conversation, and Gurlin had the same take on this, which is when I wanted to do this podcast or even anything for that matter, when I wanted to run a course, my take, and I've discussed this with both of you. My take was, no, I don't think I'm the right person for this. And my way of looking at it was because some things have come to me naturally. Some things I have invested hours and hours, years after years in learning that skill. So skill that I have invested a lot of time in acquiring, for me to then teach that skill, impart that skill to somebody else, I feel confident. I feel like I've earned that right to do it. But there are other skills that come to me more or less naturally. And if somebody tells me, can you teach me that skill? I feel like a fraud. I feel like, no, no, no. I haven't invested any time in doing this. And that's when Gurlin also talked to me about this. Kevin, I remember you talking to me about this was, okay, forget Nikita for a minute. What does that other person need from you? They want to learn this skill. How you've acquired it, whether you magically got it overnight or you worked on it for 30 years, it doesn't matter. It's about them. Make it about them for a minute, and then think, do you have that skill to empower them? Do you have the skill to help them? And I think that that's a really good way of looking at things. How can I help the other person rather than just going about, okay, I need to do this and I am this and I have done this. So it's all about the I. Make it about, okay, how can I help them right now? So that's a good one. Thank you, Goodlin. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Golin, so we we talk about external validation because we've taken when you spoke about like the symptoms of imposter syndrome, we have mentioned quite a few times external validation. So I think that yeah, external validation is definitely part of the issue. When we talk about like some of the way to manage, we talk about like thinking a little less about ourselves and a little more about the others, you know. And I
Yeah.
think that when you put those two things together, that makes quite a lot of sense. If you can actually focus most of the time on others, that means that but in the sense of serving, maybe that can really help on one side to have less issue with imposter syndrome because you are just thinking about serving. So it's not so much about what do they think about me, but what can I
Yeah,
do for those people. So on
yeah,
one side, that's really helping to get less of an imposter syndrome. And then when it comes to people who have that imposter syndrome, the fact that we think more about the others, that can
Hmm.
actually really help us to to forget about like our own imposter syndrome. So it might be that the one of the solution to all of that is actually stop thinking about ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes the solution seems to be quite simple than it looks like.
Yeah, yeah. And I think detachment, I think, is really important, because if I talk about myself, so I do a lot of courses. So whenever now, compared to maybe a year ago, now whenever I get feedback, I don't see it as if the feedback is for me, Gurleen. The feedback is for the course that I delivered. So
Yeah,
even if I get a negative feedback or a critical feedback, I can work on it. So it does not reflect who I am, it just reflects the course that I did, and maybe there were a few slips, and I can probably, do something about it next time.
that makes
So
a lot of sense. But once again, that really makes me think that sometimes the solution is simpler than what it looks like.
yeah, yeah,
Because even here, what you're saying is that it's not about me, you know,
yeah,
uh, it's about the cause, but it's not about me. So yeah, I definitely like this. Uh, that's that's a clarification.
Can I intervene there for a second though? I know this seems simple, but it's not easy. Detaching from that emotion of I is not easy because we do know it's our ego is there to protect us. We think that our ego is there to make us feel good and all of that, but I think the primary job of it is to keep us safe as well. And we all have this inherent desire to be liked by others because
yeah,
that's where our survival is dependent. Because
yeah,
back in the times as we were evolving as in the caveman stone age stage, if you were not a part of a community, if you were exiled from this community, you won't survive. And that's why being liked by others, accepted by others, is really crucial for our survival. And though that's not the case literally anymore, if your parents disown you, you'll still probably survive. Um, or if you're kicked out of your company, you'd still survive. But that's not how we feel. So it's very it's not easy. It looks simple. Yes, detach yourself from that emotion, but it's not simple. And though I understand all of this and I've studied all of this, but doing that is harder than you think. And well,
yeah,
that's why sometimes, yes, that's why, why, Gulin, that's why I would recommend people to then come to you. Because if it was that easy, just don't think about yourself, just do it this way. I don't think anybody, I would never have asked you to come here today, or I would not recommend people to go to you. The reason I invited you and the reason I would recommend people to go to you is because though it seems so simple, it is not easy. You need someone to mentor you. You need someone to talk to you about it sometimes, and bring you back on that track. Just like you did for me, or just like Tevin did for me. It's like that accountability sometimes. So
yeah,
just probing you a little bit more. That is something that, yeah, a trained psychologist like you can do. Or and I think that's where the key lies. So definitely. But there was one other question that I think is really important. I think if you are with someone, they don't recognize that they have imposter syndrome, how could you somehow at least help them without kind of pointing out that you do have imposter syndrome? Probably. I mean, I think it was, yeah, Sylvia who asked that question. I have seen that as well. And I had recognized that in Kevin too. And I had recognized that in my partner too. They call it being humble, but sometimes it's not
mhm,
just being humble. It is beyond that. It's they're being imposter. If they're declining offers because they think they're not good enough to take up that job offer or the promotion or
yeah,
the client or the speaking engagement, whatever that is, how can you
yeah.
help the person then?
That's a very good question. So, okay, if somebody is not aware of this imposter syndrome, but you can see that from a distance, how do you help that person? So I think one is talking about it, because it is so common, and the kind of culture we are in, we kind of this winning culture, this hyper competitive culture, and we don't even encourage vulnerability. We don't even encourage talking about all these hardships. So I think first would be just talk about it and normalize it. You don't have to celebrate it, but just normalize it, that okay, it happens, and it happens with everybody. Everybody feels insecure. Everyone feels jealous when you see someone performing better than you on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Instagram. So I think one, definitely talk about it. Talk about it with the people you trust. Maybe talk to a therapist, talk to a friend. I think talking really helps in safe spaces. I think that is what we also did in the workshop where you participated, Nikita. We all were talking about it, and we realized that it is more common than we had anticipated, and that kind of eases us out, because we know that we all are sailing in the same boat and it's okay. So one is that, and I think second would be I think encouraging people to focus on getting it done and not getting it perfect. So whatever they are doing, so just get it done, and don't fixate on perfection, because perfectionism does not exist, and good is the enemy of perfectionism. So it actually hampers your own growth, and it is the most self paralyzing sense of self abuse, I think, perfectionism. And I think third would be let go of distorted comparison. Like I said, I also spend a lot of time on Instagram, and I like seeing pictures of my friends, dogs, and kids. But sometimes it feels like everybody's living a better life than I am. They seem more successful, happier, thinner. And these comparisons don't even make sense, because what we do is we compare our bloopers to their highlights, and that is totally distorted. It just does not make sense. So I think the next time you compare yourself to other people, just stop and think rationally, uh, and just think about the person who is probably putting the pictures. That person is not even showing their whole life to you. So how are you comparing your whole life to somebody's specially curated realities? So the comparison does not make sense. So I think let go of comparison. So these are some of the three that is coming at top of my mind, but there are a lot of other strategies as well. So maybe when we talk, I can probably share.
Yeah, thank you, Goodwin.
Yeah.
I I was going to ask you something which probably I initially thought I didn't want to ask you because I thought it's not related to the audience because we're talking about, we hear most of the people who tune in are either professionals and entrepreneurs. But I then thought it's perhaps important because even as an entrepreneur, you might be in a relation, as in a professional relationship, a business partner. Um, so, do you think imposter syndrome can be felt only in kind of your performance, as in task performance, or can it be felt in a relationship? And the reason I'm asking this is because I have had this feeling when I'm especially in relationships. So I don't kind of have problems with being feeling like an imposter when it comes to tasks or work or business. Sometimes, yes, a little bit, but my imposter syndrome mainly comes from relationships. So, for instance, when Kevin asked me to join with him, I was struggling with that feeling because I felt, "No, I'm not good enough to be in partnership with him." And it's not to do with business, it's mainly to do with as a person,
Hmm.
do I deserve this? Is the question. So
Yeah.
that's why I thought it might be a valid question, even given the audience. Do you think that that is valid, or is just me, or do people feel like an imposter
No,
in
it can.
relationships?
Yeah, it can show in personal relationships as well, personal bondings, because again, self doubt, it can manifest either in your professional setting or personal setting. So it's, yeah. So it happens in personal setting as well.
Okay, okay. Okay, so it is kind of valid. And then if there are business partners, for example, or with people that you work, if you're having these kind of issues, then yeah, there are you're saying there are ways to deal with it. Am I right?
Yes, yes, yes. There are ways to deal with it. So I personally, because I'm an organizational psychologist, so I generally do not take family counseling cases.
Yeah.
I usually take career cases only.
Mhm.
So I don't have a lot of data to answer your question, but it does happen. It kind of manifests in personal relationships as well. Yes.
Okay. But
Yeah.
in career relationships or in career kind of context in an organization, if people are having issues, then they could approach you and you would be able to help them, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. And I am also a personal coach for people who deal with imposter syndrome. So I've coached a lot of people.
Mhm.
Uh, and again, like I said, in organizational settings, because it kind of manifests more in organizational settings for many people. So yeah, I can help out with that. I have, group therapies. I also do individual one-on-one coaching as well. And because I personally also have struggled with imposter syndrome, and I still do, so I really understand. I get it. So I also share. So I'm not sharing it just from Google search or reading from the book. I'm coming from my own personal experience, and I'm sharing the strategies that I have personally used in my life. And I think, yes, on that note, I think mentoring others also helps. So whenever, I think that was a good question, whenever you see somebody with imposter syndrome feelings, I think it'll be great if you can start mentoring them, talk to them, listen to them, try to get to know why they feel how they feel, and kind of motivate them. I think mentoring others also goes a long way, because that you also feel good when you kind of help others succeed. So I think mentoring others is also a good strategy to deal with your own imposter feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something that I will add on that one, uh, because I also think that it's really important to to be there for other people, and we don't always need to try to offer a solution. So it means that if someone is dealing with imposter syndrome, and we can notice that, I think that as a friend or colleague, it's good to be there for them to
Yeah,
know that they are not on their own. But I also think that's also important to be humble enough to be like, all I'm gonna do is just to be there to support them, just to show them that I'm there. But when it comes to really helping them to deal with something like this, it's good to know our limits, and to be like, you know what, this is not really something that I can do by myself. So I'm going to be there. And whenever that person is ready, I can refer her to someone that is more equipped. Someone like you, for example, someone like Nikita, that's dealing also with emotional intelligence. So personally, that's more or less my approach. So because it's also quite easy, I think to we see someone struggling, and to try to help and come with solutions, forgetting that we are not a professional in that field, and we can end up doing more damage than good.
yeah,
So for me, that's just what I wanted to maybe to add, but obviously that's my personal view, is to be there for people you want to support. 100% yes, to try to solve their issue, only if you're equipped to do that.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, I agree. Yes, yeah. And I think another strategy that is coming to my mind is, I think, looking at yourself as a friend, because a lot of times we are really good friends. If somebody comes to me and tells me that, oh, this happened, that happened, I'll be a very compassionate friend to that person. But when it comes to me, I'm very self-critical. So when you know, f- when there is a faux pas in my life, then I'd be really hard on myself. But if it is somebody else, as my friends, I will be really compassionate with her and tell her, hey, it's okay, it's fine, just move on. So I think that is another strategy. Look at yourself as a friend, detach and let that bully fade away, and talk to yourself in second person or third person, because this can provide some emotional distance in situations where you feel stressed, and kind of help relieve the stress associated with the task. So when you tell yourself that, hey Gurleen, you can do it, instead of saying that I can do it. So I think detach and
Yeah,
talk to yourself in second person really helps.
that's really great advice. That's really great advice. I heard by uh from a NLP a trainer that emotions is sometimes really difficult to deal with because we tend to associate with the emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And what you offer is just a great, a simple way to understand that the concept of being detached. Well, sometimes when you say to people, okay, try to be detached, okay, they're like, okay, but what do you mean? Okay, how do you do that? And you have explained it in a really simple but really efficient way. Talk to the third person, talk to the second person. So yeah, I really like that.
yeah,
Um, in the workshop, Goodwin, you gave us loads of strategies, and I think yeah, this was one of them. So as Tevin's talking about NLP, yeah, one of the strategies I think I do use is to, if I feel that okay, this is not the right thing for me, I try and I actually picture myself sitting in a chair and another person sitting in a chair, who's a third party, and the person who's made that offer sitting in the chair. So it's like three people sitting, imagine like in a triangular shape, facing each other and talking to each other. So the person who makes that offer, I picture them making that offer to me. I do the dialogue in their voice. Then I do my dialogue, and then I do the dialogue from a party's point of view as well. So that really helps, taking that third party perspective or describing the situation. If I am to describe the situation to this third party,
yeah,
saying that XYZ made me this offer and I feel this is not the right thing for me, and why, then I give them that reason and I debate from their point of view. So that
yeah,
really helps this, and I think it's a strategy in NLP. It's the positive, the learned optimism, positive psychology. So yeah, that's a great one, Gurlin.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And there's a term for this, the one you talked about. It's also called strategic optimism. And there is another style, and that's called defensive pessimism.
yeah,
So that, which is my style. So my style is thinking about the worst case scenario, what could go wrong, and be prepared with it already. So
yeah,
where you are using NLP, you are thinking optimistically about that situation, and you have already made up your mind that this is how you see the situation and this is what you're going to do. I am here. I'm also planning the same thing, but my strategy is a little different. Mine is more like defensive because I don't want to be in that situation and I want to be prepared. So I think both of them, both the strategies work. So a lot
yeah,
of people say that, okay, you have to be optimistic only, but research has indicated that optimism and pessimism both work.
yeah,
So it
Yeah.
depends on you how you want to really use your
I,
strengths.
I really like that, and that's reconfirm my approach. Is that for anyone that will really want to be supportive? Once again, be there. But I also think that what you've just shared with us now, Golin, and even you, Nikita, that shows that you get some I would say weapons, but that's I don't like that word. But you got some tools, that you know how to use, and I think this is what someone struggling with need, that kind of a support. So yeah, that would definitely comfort what I said. It's so important to know our limits. Now talking about the limit and like the professionalism, what um what I will want to finish with after asking thanking you, but what I would like to finish with, that would be actually we have seen that you got a lot of knowledge. You have mentioned that you work mainly with a corporation, but also life coaching. So how can people actually reach you, reach out to you?
Okay, they can visit my website. And in fact, I'm hosting another batch of dealing with imposter syndrome in a group therapy format, and Nikita has been my client. So people can go to thatculturething.com/wellness. And the dates for the next batch are 4th and 5th of September, from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. IST. I'm not sure what time will it be in BST.
So
But
yeah,
that's
it's
the third
30
batch.
in the afternoon. 12:30ish. Yeah, 12:30 in the afternoon. Yeah.
Okay, I think that should work for your audience as well. So yeah, 4th and 5th of September, group therapy on imposter syndrome. I'm hosting that. So people are interested, they can sign up.
And to sign up, they just need to go to your website.
Yeah, thatculturething.com/wellness.
Okay. And what time is that going to be? 4 and 5th of September. What time?
That will be 4 p.m. IST, 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. IST. I'm not sure what time will it be in
So that
BST.
would be, I think, 11:30. Sorry, 11:30 UK time.
Do you know what? I think that if we got entrepreneurs and they are not able to find out what time is it, I think that they got more issue than dealing with imposter syndrome. 4 p.m. IST. I mean that people should be. We were talking about not being egocentric. So yeah, there are other time zone than
Yeah,
BST. So yeah, so if people want to have more information, just go to thatculturething.com/wellness, and you got an event on the 4th and 5th of September.
that's correct.
Golin, thank you very much. That has been real pleasure. We have learned a lot. We can see that we still have so much to learn from you. So if we treated you well enough, I hope that you will accept like another invitation in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was such a pleasure talking to you both, and thank you so much for having me. I had a really good time.
Thank you. Before we finish, I just want to use a quote that I learned from Gurlin. Gurlin, you might want to rephrase it, but the way I remember it is, the focus should be to improve, not to prove. And that's
Yes,
what I keep telling myself every time I feel that, oh, I'm not good enough for this, or I don't belong here, I'm not the right person. I tell myself, okay, well, I'm here to improve and not to prove myself to
yeah,
anyone. So, yeah. That
yeah.
was that's my mantra now after having met with Gurlin. To improve, not to prove. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I'm so glad that you remember it.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, lucky. I got so much wisdom I share with her. She doesn't remember any of that. So maybe I should question myself. So it's not
No,
maybe
she has given you a lot of credit. I saw that she has given you a lot of credit. See, there you got some external validation from.
Yeah, I got some issue with that. I'm not happy. She had never called me, never. No, no. But thank you so much, and I would also like that. That's a quote. The focus should be to improve, not to prove.
Not to prove. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Golin, thank you very much.
Thank
Uh,
you.
so feel free, guys, to follow us to share the live. That's every Sunday at 6 p.m. BST. And of course, feel free also to send us in advance your question. And the idea, once again, is to support professionals and entrepreneurs as much as we can. Thank you, guys, and see you next time.
Thank
Thanks, Gurlin.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.